So if any brand wants to expand their business globally, so what should be the ideal digital marketing strategy that you would advise?
So for e-commerce in particular, I think leveraging your internet is really important, or whatever online platforms that you're going on. So I kind of see that so let's say you're doing e-commerce direct and you're selling through your website. There are three different ways to look at it. Is one, you can go all in. You can say, I'm going to translate my whole website, and we're going to make sure everything is really optimized across each language that you do. The next way is to do a microsite. And this might be if you're only selling certain products in a country, or you want to sell your best-selling products, start out smaller. So you can build a microsite and not do your whole website. And then the third way to do it is just to do a landing page. And I see a lot of business to business services companies do this because they have a full sales cycle. It's not really e-commerce, but it's an option that you could do for e-commerce by just putting a few products on there and testing to see what you get. So that's the first thing, is just to look at your website and how are you going to set that up. The second thing to think about is if you're selling products, you have to meet the requirements of labeling and packaging. So make sure your packaging is translated and your user information is translated, and anything that the consumer is going to have, because additional research shows that if a consumer goes all the way through the buying process, but then the post-sales materials aren't translated, they're not going to come back and buy, or they're not going to refer their friends. So, talking to experienced marketers, you map out your buyer's journey and you look at all the points where the customer is looking for information, and then you make sure you have something translated into each of those points so your customer feels welcome coming in to talk to you.
Definitely, definitely. Understanding the customer journey is very important, especially when you are entering into a new market. To understand that how the audience respond to your product or to your services, and then we can pitch accordingly outcome.
Yes, yes. And if you're starting a new market, you don't need to translate all the material that you have in your buyer's journey, because you already have metrics of what material is most helpful or used or clicked or downloaded. And so that's where you'd start. Take the information that consumers or your buyers are already looking at, and then translate that, and you can grow from there. Because that's another thing. If you do all your translation at once, that's good to get information out. But any of the search engines are looking for additional content to be translated in language, and that helps drive people being able to find you.
So also, yeah. So also in this point, I just want to ask that, let's say English is a kind of global language which even Google and most of the search engines they understand it well. But what about the regional language? Like if someone is going in, let's say going in, let's say North Korea, or might be in India where it's Hindi and these all things. So how one can optimize their website so that they are visible if someone is looking for in their local language.
Okay, so yeah, really good question. Okay, so when you set up your original website, you go through and you look at the journey. What's the pathway you're trying to bring somebody through? So that's probably going to be the same. Then you take your list of keywords and you say, we want to optimize these pages for these keywords. Now, those keywords you want to call out for the translator and say, these are our keywords. And the translator can give you the different keywords or key phrases, the search terms that are most popular in that language, because it may be slightly different than it is in the original language. So you want to make sure that the translator is doing, it's not a word for word translation, but they're also thinking, what is the user's behavior in searching for that? Then when you write your content, you make sure you're consistent with using that translated keyword throughout, your website so the search engines are picking it up in whatever, in the Chinese language that you're translating into, or Hindi. Then you also want to think about, your all the direction navigation back end stuff. So you've got your URLs and you've got your page descriptions, all that stuff that's not going to come up, but you want to make sure that they're all translated and using the keywords so it can help drive the traffic in for that language.